What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Blank Online here today to chat with you more about some Black Ops Cold War. But before I get any further in this video, 97% of you guys watching the video right now are not subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure you click that subscribe button to be kept up to date on everything to do with Black Ops Cold War, Wars in Season 6 and more. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So the Black Ops Cold War open beta has been finished for quite a couple of days now. So it's given me a couple of days and some time really to look at my overall beta experience, go through the good, the bad, the garbage, the things I liked about the beta, the things I didn't like in this sort of concise or somewhat concise video here. I'm going to go through every single thing I just said. So the good of Black Ops Cold War, the bad and the downright ugly and garbage of this game, all the points inside of those points, and then explain my overall opinions of the game at the end of the video. Starting off here with the good, I like the overall feel of the game in terms of the core gameplay mechanics. This has been a running theme for about 3 years now in terms of Call of Duty. I'd say from the start when I started kind of doing videos with Black Ops 4, I liked Black Ops 4 to a certain extent. I liked the core fundamental gameplay and how the game overall feels of Black Ops 4, but overall some of the content issues and that sort of thing hindered my experience on that game. Same thing with Modern Warfare 2019. I really like the core gameplay fundamentals and the way the game overall feels of Modern Warfare 2019. Things like safe spaces, skill-based matchmaking, and all those sort of things really hindered my experience there. Same sort of thing here in Black Ops Cold War. I like how the game feels. It feels like an old school, fast-paced, run-and-gun Call of Duty shooter. The way that the guns feel, the way that the character moves around, all that sort of stuff feels really good to me in terms of things like, for example, time to kill. I really like the Black Ops Cold War time to kill. It definitely promotes the more skilled players rather than having a faster time to kill to sort of help the more casual players out, which was a thing in Modern Warfare 2019. So time to kill here in Black Ops Cold War is not your traditional Treyarch time to kill. It's a little bit faster than the traditional Treyarch time to kill. It's sort of like a Sledgehammer TTK, which is somewhat to be expected because we know that Treyarch took over from Sledgehammer for this game. So a slightly faster time to kill can be somewhat expected, and I like it. I personally like a slightly faster than the original Treyarch time to kill, which is what we have here in Black Ops Cold War, and I'm really enjoying it right there. So the overall feel of the game is really, really good to me, and I'm enjoying the way that the core gameplay at least feels here in Black Ops Cold War. The second point I have here is Gunsmith, and tying into Gunsmith all the content we have, at least here in the beta. When you compare Black Ops Cold War and you compare it to Black Ops 4, there's a lot more weapons, there's a lot more attachments, and there's a lot more things to sort of customize and look at here in Black Ops Cold War than there was in Black Ops 4, which already, even though it's only in the beta phase, is already a big fat dub. The Gunsmith here in Black Ops Cold War can be seen as an improvement and cannot be seen as an improvement. I think in terms of the nitty gritty, the sort of the milliseconds, the percentage wise, and the ways that your attachments do affect your weapons are a lot better in sort of that in-depth sense here in Black Ops Cold War. I think overall that sort of system, this system we have now, is better than the one in Modern Warfare. Where I feel the one in Modern Warfare betters the one in Black Ops Cold War is one, the ability to create weapons from attachments. So for example, in Modern Warfare, you could create an RPD or an AK-74U dependent on the attachments you use. As well as that, the other thing that I like more in Modern Warfare 2019 than in Black Ops Cold War is the sort of variety of attachments that you could choose. In Black Ops Cold War, I find myself only leaning towards 3 reflex sights and all the other sights that I don't necessarily use. I also find myself only using one type of grip. I only find myself using one type of mag as well. There's not a lot of variety here, mainly because of what the different attachments do to the weapons and the sort of plus and negatives that they do. And as well as that, the playstyle that I play with. I feel like for the playstyle that I play with, a very rush heavy sort of momentum, movement speeds, fast ADS, fast reload speed and that sort of stuff. There's only a very select few attachments that sort of cater to that sort of playstyle, and as well as that don't sort of negate the other assets of the weapon in terms of overall range and damage and that sort of stuff as well. So for the way that I like to customize my weapons, the attachments, at least in the beta right now that we have in the Gunsmith, aren't necessarily the ones that I would put on there or have a variety to which that I see as acceptable. I think with the Modern Warfare 2019 Gunsmith system, there's so many attachments and there's so many different ways for you to customize your weapons. in an ideal sense, you're sort of overwhelmed with attachments and you can try out different things and that sort of stuff. Here in the beta, I feel like I found my attachments that I like to use on every single different weapon, and I just ran with it. So overall, in terms of the nitty gritty, I think it's a definite improvement on the Modern Warfare 2019 system. I do see it being more balanced than the Modern Warfare 2019 system as well, in terms of the sort of positives and what they do to the weapons and the negatives and what they do to the weapons. But overall, in terms of variety and that sort of stuff, it's something that I can see that needs to be improved. Moving on from that and sort of keeping in tune with Gunsmith and content as a whole, weapon balancing. I feel like the weapon balancing here in Black Ops Cold War at the current Weekend 2 phase is actually pretty good. During the open alpha, we saw that the AK-74U, the AK-47 really ran riot. Here at Weekend 2, you saw a lot more variety. So for example, a lot more XM4s were thrown into the mix there. People trying out different types of weapons, Type 63s and all that sort of stuff. Just people not just using the 74U or the AK-47. People were trying different weapons and different weapons were viable. You can argue that the M16 is one of the more overpowered weapons here in Black Ops Cold War, but to be honest with you, it's not as bad as the AK-47 and the 74U were back in the alpha. The M16 is actually quite a very viable weapon. If I'm honest, it's probably my favorite weapon from the open beta, and it very might well be one of my favorite weapons moving into the full release of the game as well. But at the current state of the weapon balancing here in Black Ops Cold War, I think it's in a fairly good place. The one thing that I would ask Treyarch to look at is snipers. Not because of how powerful they are, but mainly because of how easy it is for people to use them. The thing that Black Ops Cold War doesn't have is, one, as a brighter glare, brighter glint. So in Modern Warfare 2019, there was a glint. You knew when someone was using a sniper because you saw that glint. There's not that much of a glint here in Black Ops Cold War, so therefore snipers are less visible on the map, and as well as that, snipers don't get flinch. So when snipers get shot, it's easier for them to still stay on target and shoot you than it is for you to still stay on target and shoot them, therefore giving snipers more of an advantage. I'd ask for Treyarch to look at the snipers and look at how they can make the snipers or other weapons more competitive compared to snipers. Of course, there's always going to be people who are really, really good at using snipers, and you can't do anything to change that. If people are really good at using snipers, you can't change that. I see a lot of people complaining that, oh, snipers are still overpowered. Snipers need a nerf. Personally, for me, I think snipers are in a good position in terms of damage and damage range and those sort of things. I think that snipers are in a good position. People are just really, really good at using snipers, and I think that's something that we need to realize and something that we need to notice. But there are things that Treyarch can improve to make other weapons a bit more viable in terms of having gunfights with snipers at medium to close ranges. Far ranges you can't really do anything about, but medium to close ranges, so there's definitely some things we can do to improve that. But overall, current weapon balancing, we're looking pretty good. That's pretty much all I have for the good of Black Ops Cold War. Let's move on to the bad. The first thing I want to talk about is leveling and progression. I find the progression system, and in particular the weapon leveling system here in Black Ops Cold War, too much of a grind. I feel like it takes way too long for you to unlock attachments and progress your weapon in a way that we've never seen in Call of Duty before. Usually weapon leveling doesn't take that long to do, but for whatever reason here in the open beta and even in the alpha, even in Weekend 1 as well, like it was just like it took so long for you to unlock weapons, and only when Treyarch maxed all the weapons out was when you when I sort of have a bit more fun with the weapons and understand the weapons a lot more once all the attachments were unlocked. I feel like for the amount of time I put into Black Ops Cold War compared to the amount of progression or experience I got on those weapons, it didn't feel right. So I think that in the full release of the game, Treyarch needs to sort of look at the overall weapon leveling system, and to a certain extent the progression system, but we'll get into more of that in a second. The weapon leveling system here in Black Ops Cold War, and sort of fine tune how much XP gets given and how much will go towards that weapon leveling system as well, and sort of fine tuning that, because you don't want players to get up to level 40 and still have only a level 10 AK-74U. That doesn't necessarily make sense, and that's what it felt like here in the open beta. So for that to get a fine tune, we'd be in a good position. Speaking on the proper leveling system, we don't actually know what the leveling system is going to be in Black Ops Cold War. Apparently what we've seen in the open beta is only going to be for the open beta, and the system that we get in the final release of the game is going to be completely different. I'm not too sure. We literally have no idea on what the progression system is going to be in Black Ops Cold War. It could go back to the seasonal reset that we've seen in Modern Warfare 2019. We could go back to the traditional prestige system. We just don't know. If I'm honest, I want just the traditional prestige system. I want what we've seen in the open beta and what we've seen in Call of Duty's before before Modern Warfare 2019. I think that the seasonal reset of leveling doesn't necessarily help the game at all. For me personally, it didn't give me any sort of drive to get to 155 because I knew that once I got to 155, there was nothing else to do and nothing else to sort of level up and progress towards, because by the time you got to 155, you pretty much complete the battle pass anyway. So what's really the point of continuing and playing the game after getting those max ranks? Like, I think that prestige system needs to come back because it's something that people can work towards. It's something that people can grind towards, and it's as simple as just leveling up. The joy that you get from leveling up is something that the current system doesn't do, and I think that needs to return in Black Ops Cold War. So leveling and progression systems definitely need to get a look at. The score streak system is also something that needs to get a very, very big tune-up. For whatever reason, what they did here with Black Ops Cold War isn't right. And this, actually, the score streak system was bordering on garbage, but I decided to put it in bad, because it's not as bad as what we've seen. It's not as garbage as what we're going to get into in the garbage section of the video. The score streak system definitely needs a lot of work. I do like the idea of having a score streak system back as opposed to kill streaks, which I personally tend to like a lot more, score streaks as opposed to kill streaks. And I do also like the idea that in a way, I like the idea that score streaks do progress even after you die, because we've seen it in Call of Duty before, in Modern Warfare 3 more in particular, and it has worked in that game. So I don't see why it can't work here in Black Ops Cold War. The one thing that doesn't make sense is the value of the score streaks, how much you get, how much score you get, and as well as that, the kill multiplier. The kill multiplier doesn't make sense because people always look at the kill multiplier as a thing that they want to savor. Rather than going on an objective and rather than capping a flag, you would rather savor your kill multiplier so that you can get your chopper gunner or your war machine or whatever that may be. That then hinders the overall gameplay because most people won't be playing the objective. In a game like Kill Confirmed and Team Deathmatch, it's not necessarily more of a thing. Kill Confirm more so that people don't pick up tags, but more for game modes like Control, game modes like Domination, game modes like Hardpoint. People will just avoid the objectives because they'll want to keep their kill multiplier going. It's a system that Treyarch tried to please two sets of fans. The set of fans that wanted score streaks and the set of fans that wanted kill streaks. By combining them both together, you sort of have a system that didn't necessarily need to be fixed. If we just got the traditional score streak system that was in Black Ops 2, in Call of Duty, ever since Black Ops 2, really, I don't think this would be even a problem. If anything, it'd be in the good section of the video because we'd have this system returning back to us. I don't think that the current score streak system, and as well as that the current score you get for doing things, necessarily promotes objective play at all. If anything, playing the objective doesn't really get you that much score as opposed to getting a kill multiplier streak. It should be the other way around. It should be the fact that doing objectives and capping flags and capping dog tags and that sort of stuff give you more score because you're doing things that won't necessarily get you that longer kill streak and will actually help the team to win. That was the whole point of the score streak system, and it was to promote objective play. And if anything, this current system does the opposite of that, if anything, really, because people will know that if you die, or if you die, you lose that kill multiplier, therefore it will take you longer to get those higher kill streaks. I don't think that the score streak system and the value of the score streaks are that balanced either. To go on like a 7 kill streak and still not get a UAV is ridiculous, and I don't necessarily understand why the developers took that option and why that's a thing. Really, usually a UAV is only a 3 kill streak, so why are you going all the way to 6 kills even with capturing flags just to get a UAV? It doesn't necessarily make sense, and I understand that Treyarch was trying to sort of balance the amount of UAVs in the sky during the beta, but at the same time, like, if you're gonna double the amount of kills you need to get for a score streak, and then you're gonna even add on top of that the fact that you also need to do objective play to get just the simple UAV, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Personally, for me, if we're looking at the current score streak system, I'd rather and prefer the score streak system and the balance of the score streak system that we had in the open alpha. Personally, for me, that was better than what we have right now. What we have right now is a system that doesn't necessarily promote playing the objective whatsoever, because you don't get enough score for playing the objective while you as opposed to going on a massive kill streak. Like, it just doesn't really make sense. So if we were living in a perfect world, I would revert completely back to the score streak system we've seen in Call of Duty post Black Ops 2. Best case scenario probably would be to get the system that we had in the alpha and improve upon that, rather than continuing with what we've had here in the open beta. But that's just me. That's my personal opinion. The final point I have here for the bad section of the video is overall visibility. Visibility was a massive problem in Modern Warfare 2019, and it continues to be a problem here in Black Ops Cold War. I wouldn't say it's as bad, but a lot of the character models and a lot of the ways that the maps were colorized and that sort of stuff definitely do not help that whole sort of visibility factor. The whole visibility in terms of maps and the way that the game looks and that sort of stuff doesn't help. Especially in satellite, it's so hard to see people on satellite because a lot of the character models look very similar to the colors on the map. Same thing with Miami. To an extent, same thing as Moscow, not as bad, but mainly Miami and satellite where I find sort of visibility being a problem. I'm not too sure how they fix that, to be honest with you. If they dull the colors to make the character models pop a bit more, then that could be a factor, but I personally like the more colorful maps. Visibility needs to be fixed, because there's no worse thing than dying to someone you didn't even know was there, or aiming in and not even seeing the person. I might just have bad eyes, but like aiming in and there's someone that's like camouflaged in the dunes in satellite, or camouflaged in that middle section with the plane, because there's so much going around them, and a lot of your player models are sort of like light browny kind of player models sort of thing. So visibility is something that definitely needs to be fixed moving into the final game and the final release, or else we're going to have another Modern Warfare 2019 visibility situation on our hands. Moving on to the garbage, the absolute bottom barrel shit show that we've seen from Black Ops Cold War. I'll start off with skill-based matchmaking, because skill-based matchmaking, we've done a lot of videos of that here on the channel, so I won't talk about that too much. And while it improved, at least personally for me, during the open beta period, and more specifically weekend 2 of the open beta period, it's definitely something that's still there, and it's definitely something that needs to either be addressed or heavily toned down. I think that skill-based matchmaking can work in Call of Duty to a certain extent. If we have skill-based matchmaking as it was in, say, Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Ghost even, then we're going to have it's going to be a system that we don't necessarily realize and don't necessarily know it's there. The current implementation of skill-based matchmaking, we definitely know it's there. It's not as strong in weekend 2 as it was in weekend 1, but then again, it could be just a way of for Treyarch to sort of bait us all in and say, oh, here's the carrot, we're dangling the toned down skill-based matchmaking, and then bang, as soon as the final game releases, we get the skill-based matchmaking that we saw in not only the alpha as well as that in weekend 1 of the open beta. I think that skill-based matchmaking will always be a thing that we talk about, and for as long as it's in gaming, will always be something as a topical discussion. I think that Treyarch just needs to tread the fine line of using skill-based matchmaking as a way to monetize matchmaking, and as well as that still appeasing the fans that have been with you since day one. So I won't go too much further into skill-based matchmaking. As I said, we have made tons of videos talking about the topic, but skill-based matchmaking is definitely still an ugly factor here in Black Ops Cold War. Moving on from that, we'll talk about the servers. The servers in Black Ops Cold War have not been fantastic. It's been an issue since the open alpha, and has been a continuing issue here into the open beta periods of the game. Servers are not very good. Every gunfight feels like a 50-50, and that's not necessarily something you want from your Call of Duty game. You don't want players to go into gunfights and thinking, I could lose or I couldn't lose. You want the person who had the better gun skill to win the gunfight 99% of the time. That doesn't necessarily happen here in Black Ops Cold War. I find hit detection to be very, very dodgy. I find people to be lagging around the map every so often. And I find, as I said, gunfights to be a major 50-50 in terms of who's going to win the gunfight or not. And that's ultimately down to servers. The servers just can't handle the amount of people on there, what's going on and that sort of stuff. And that could be a hardware thing as well. The fact that the PS4 just can't handle this game and that sort of stuff anymore. But to be honest with you, it's most likely down to the servers. We did have server issues going into the release of Black Ops 4 as well. The controversy surrounding the 24Hz servers and all that sort of stuff. And I feel like it's going to be the same thing here with Black Ops Cold War if something doesn't change from now until the final release of the game. I genuinely think that the servers are going to be garbage when we first get the game and the game first launches. So you'll probably see a video of me talking about servers once again. But for now, as a result of the open beta, servers are definitely still garbage. The lucky last and final point that I want to touch on here in this video is maps. The maps here in Black Ops Cold War, at least the ones that we got are garbage. Mainly because they are not 6v6 multiplayer maps. You can't also think of one of these maps, Satellite, Miami, Moscow, and think, wow, that is a top tier Call of Duty map. You can't look at those, no, you don't look at any of those maps and think, wow, that's a map that I'm excited to play when the game finally releases on November the 13th. If anything, we're looking at these maps and we're thinking, damn, I hope we get better maps when the game launches on November the 13th. That's at least what I'm thinking. I don't know if you guys are the same, but for me, the maps here are garbage. Cartel in particular, what a shit show of a map. The bushes in that map, why are they that long? Why are they that tall? Why do they ruin the experience of trying to capture the B flag? Because for the entire time you're trying to guess where the other player is because the bushes are the exact same height as the player models. Like, it genuinely doesn't make sense as to why Treyarch would make this design decision and why they made the bushes this way. If anything, the current state of the bushes, cut it in half. Like, there's no reason why the bushes should be the exact same height and player model, the exact same height as the player models. It just doesn't make any sort of sense. Satellite is the best out of the 4 that we've gotten in the open beta period. Satellite does still have its problems, especially that side of the map with all the sand dunes and that sort of stuff is definitely an issue there. And as I said, visibility on that map is not the greatest either. Miami doesn't feel like a 6v6 map. Miami doesn't feel like a Call of Duty map, really, in my opinion. When Miami comes on, I don't think, ugh, like I do think, for example, like a map with Piccadilly. It's not Piccadilly levels, but it's definitely not to the standard that I expect from a Call of Duty map either. And Moscow is not awful. It's not the best, but it's not awful either. There's just no standouts here. And I hope that there are standouts when the game finally launches, but at the current point in time, I can't think of any of the 4 maps. I can't think of any map that I'm excited to play when the game launches, and that's a problem. Because if the maps are like this for the beta, you'd think that, are they really going to have any better maps here when the game first launches? We could be seeing another year where Treyarch and the developers really rely on bringing back old school maps in order to make people happy, especially with Modern Warfare 2019 being a prime example of that. The best maps in Modern Warfare 2019 are remakes of old maps, so you can kind of clearly see that the original maps aren't necessarily the best things in Call of Duty nowadays, and that sort of trend is continuing here with Black Ops Cold War. The problem as well is that, as I said at the start of the point, they don't feel like 6v6 maps. They feel like maps that could either be portions of the Warzone map or maps that could be portions of the Dirty Bomb map or whatever it may be. These maps feel like they've been created to then be put into different modes rather than these maps being created as 6v6 maps. And I think that's the most important thing, that these maps don't feel like they're made for traditional Call of Duty 6v6. And that's a problem. I'll tell you why that's a problem. It's a problem because at this current point in time, David Vonderhaar and all the developers have been crying and saying, oh, Dirty Bomb is so good, Dirty Bomb, we've put all our time into Fireteam Dirty Bomb, all this sort of stuff. Infinity Ward said it last year with Warzone, where all the focus went to Warzone instead of the traditional 6v6. Same thing with Black Ops 4, where all the attention went to Blackout instead of the traditional multiplayer. It's been happening for 3 years now, and I can see it happening again here with Black Ops Cold War. I won't talk too much about this point because the video is already like 24 minutes long, but the maps here in Black Ops Cold War don't feel like 6v6 maps. They feel like they're really big maps for 6v6. Obviously because they weren't meant for that. They're meant to be maps that then can be translated into the other bigger player modes, basically. And that doesn't bode well for the future of Black Ops Cold War's main 6v6 multiplayer because of this indication that the maps aren't going to be made for 6v6 multiplayer. But that's enough for me. I've talked too long. My throat hurts. I want to eat my food. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment down below. What do you guys think? The good, the bad, the garbage of Black Ops Cold War. Let me know everything in those 3 points. What do you think of the game in the comment section down below? I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed in the past couple of days. We have passed the 700 subscriber mark and we're zooming towards the 1,000 subscriber mark. So I want to thank everyone for the current support on the videos. I'm very, very appreciative of every single one of you. I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace out.
Can't you see the bandage on my face? Wanna lie the city, that's my place. Don't you touch the money, that's my case. Ride around the city like you know the place. Killing everybody like you know the baits. Stealing all the cars, then you go race. Fucking everybody, you don't know the name.